my screen. And I always mess this up, so make sure I share the right screen here. Okay, window, entire screen. There we go. And can you see the PowerPoint presentation?
I see. Yeah, we see the whole deck with the just PowerPoint, right? You're not doing a. Oh, there you go.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I'll go full screen here. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the May Power BI user group meeting. So tonight we've got a very special guest. We've got Belinda Allen with us. So she's going to be talking about Fabric data flows. So we're excited to hear about that and see her presentation about this. So after her presentation, stick around because we're going to be doing drawings for Enterprise DNA and Radicad. So if you're still in the meeting and you've not won before, you'll have a chance to win subscriptions, and we'll go through those details. We got some slides about what those subscriptions look like and how that works. And we'll also share some other Power BI resources we've got as well. One thing I wanted to share is that we do have, we just set up a YouTube site for our user group. So all of our meetings will start being posted out there. I've got 3 out there so far. I'll be posting this one. So all of our 2024 meetings are starting to get posted on YouTube. Prior to 2024, all of our meetings were on a site called User Group TV. I'll have a link to that, a site where you'll have all of our recordings out there as well. That'll be posted on the YouTube site as well. So just so everyone knows, so where you can find the recordings, it's on this YouTube site. I'll post the link to the site in the chat as well, so you've got it.
Any reason for not using User Group TV anymore?
So we had someone that used to work for Microsoft used to monitor or manage these meetings for us. So he would record the sessions and then edit the sessions and then post them out to User Group TV. He has since kind of moved on. So we lost that connection and that resource. So we stood up our own YouTube channel, you know, to facilitate getting these recordings out there. So that's why we stopped using User Group TV. Okay, so
thanks,
Belinda. This is you. I tried to find, you know, a good kind of bio and session description. I hope I got it right.
You did.
Okay, cool. So Belinda, I won't say, you know, who you are and all this good stuff. You can do that, but just wanted to say, you know, Belinda's a special person. She does such a great job on supporting the community and attending these sessions to present. So just wanted to thank you, Belinda, for your time, and I'll let you kind of take it away, and then you can take over the screen, share, and present what you'd like to talk about with us tonight.
Thank you so much. That was so sweet of you to say. So let me get everyone, there we go. Put the chat and everything in front of me. Jeff, I like your avatar. Yours looks better than mine. Mine looks like a librarian. In my head, I look like I'm 18. So when I start describing myself, it always makes me go, oh. Okay, so hi everybody and welcome, and thank you for including me in today's session. I am getting more and more excited about Fabric as the deeper I get into it. Matt, just teasing you. And so I'm glad that both mine and Mike's friend, Kevin Arnold's here. He can keep me on the straight and narrow. And Kevin, feel free to chip in anything along the way. I'd be honored to have you help contribute. So this session is
thanks.
This session is all about using Fabric data flows. Now, one of the things I do conduct a lot of Microsoft's Fabric Analyst in a Day sessions, and one of the things that we do. You're one of my best friends too, Fernando. One of the things that they do in that course is they talk about how to kind of use data flows to get started. And if you really want to dip your toe into Fabric, as a Power BI user, this is a great place to do that very thing. And then eventually you could use it as a temporary holding point until you decide how you want to ingest your data. And so that's what this is about. The session is actually start with Fabric data flows. And so as we go on, just a little bit about me. I'm not going to read through the slides. I'm happy to, I'm going to put my email in the chat here, and I am, oops, putting my old email in. That was very smart. Okay, if you want a copy of the deck, just shoot me an email and let me know. Happy to provide you one. But just suffice it to say, where do I live now? I live in South Carolina now, Alcaloo, South Carolina. I lived in New York City longer than anywhere else. I like to joke, and from those of you from Texas will certainly understand this joke, that I'm bilingual. I speak both Yankee and Southern. And so I frequently had to interpret for my husband when we lived in New York. So that's kind of funny. But currently I am the director of enablement for a global partner called iLink Digital. It's a relatively new job. I worked for myself for many years, and so had my own practice. My husband and I, we did sell it. I went to work with the person who bought it for 3 years. I fulfilled a contract and then went back out on my own again. So this is a new experience for me, working for not only a large global partner, because we were a small global partner beforehand, but now I work with large enterprise customers as opposed to the small and medium-sized business. So it's a quite a venture for me. And one of the things I will point out that makes me qualified to talk about this is I am a Microsoft MVP. I've been one for 12 years now. Fingers crossed, July will make 13. And then also, thanks, thanks, Mike. And I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. So as soon as the new course comes out for the DP 600, basically it's advanced Power BI, which includes Fabric. I'll be teaching that as well. So that's a little bit about me. You want to know more about me, you can check it out. Oh, thank you very much. That's a very Saraba?
Yep, my name is Sarab.
Sarab. Oh, okay, thanks. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Oh, a little side note that's kind of interesting is even though our global headquarters for iLink is technically in Seattle, the bulk of all our executives live in Texas, mostly Dallas, one in Houston, and one in Austin, I believe, right near where you are. So that's kind of interesting. This is going to be a lot of hands-on stuff. We're going to do an introduction. I'm going to talk about why data flows, why you'd be interested in data flows, and then we're going to do demos with tips. And I will point out, Fabric is kind of big. So we're going to just focus on data flows themselves. We'll do a little bit of a demo with the pipelines as well. So we'll understand what some of that is. I guess we'll do a touch of engineering because we are going to create a lakehouse to put our data in, but I'm going to just touch on a lot of high level points. And I'm going to encourage you to go out and get your trial license. And then at that point, I'd like to see you try to do some of what I'm doing yourself. And I'm pretty sure that you can. Okay. So let's start out with what are data flows. Data flows, technically, I'm not going to read what's on the screen. Technically, data flows is Power Query. We're all in Power BI. We all know Power Query. So there's connectors where we can connect to information and we can model our data and clean it up. And there's hundreds of data sources and all the kinds of different things we could do, merging, splitting, all the different ways we can transform data we can do in here. Now we have data flows in Power BI as well. And if you've used it in Power BI, you know, you can connect to data and do your modeling, and then that'll become a permanent data source that you can connect to where the data is already modeled. Gen 2 is similar to that. And so it's a little bit different. The data flows in Fabric, we'll talk about that more in a moment, but essentially it is Power Query. Dataflow is Power Query, where we're using it to ingest data, to get our data, to do our transforming, and to start the loading process for the data model. Okay, so this is the icon for data flows. And if you've been around any event around Alex Powers, he always carries stickers on him on this, so feel free to ask him. But this is the Power Query logo. So why I started my Fabric journey with data flows? Well, this is one of my logos, citizen developer. I don't consider myself a highly dev person or in-depth dev person, and yet I could easily do so many components inside of Fabric. I could take the data and do a lot more with it, and more than I ever could in Premium personally, because they've made it easy for me. There are a lot of different ways to get to the data. We have notebooks where we're using things like some Spark, like PySpark for Python. Fernando was teasing me because I got a giant Python book in the back. It's an old book I've had for a while. After Fabric came out, it made its way back up to the front of my top of my bookshelf. We can copy data in. We can make shortcuts to some data sources. We can mirror, this is a new thing, some data sources, and those are only going to grow and grow. But then we have this very powerful data flow version. And I knew data flow. I started data flow back before Power BI was ever out, and it was a piece inside of Excel. In fact, when it came out before it was announced publicly, I was at my very first MVP summit, and I was at an Excel event, and they showed it to us, and my jaw fell open. I'm like, oh, I love this, and I've been playing in it ever since. And so it made me happy when it made it into the new Power BI, because the first Power BI was just a series of things you put inside a SharePoint. And so when it made it into the Power BI desktop that we know and love today, I was all happy. Now that they're making it more streamlined into the service, I got happy. It made its way into Power BI or into Fabric, still happy. It's easy to use and it's a good experience. And all of you know it. So this is a great way for you to dip your toe into the Fabric pool. All right, so why do you use data flows? One, a Power Query, you know it. That's a good one. It does shorten the authoring experience. There is a little bit of overhead with it, but it does shorten the experience. For those of you who are citizen developers like me, and a citizen developer is not what I call someone who just does things in Excel. All right, we're over the edge a little bit in the developer world, but we don't go out and grab C#, right? We don't do that. I took a C# class once and I did okay in it, but at the end of, or the beginning of every day, I was like, I've got this. And at the end of the day, please forgive my curse word, I would say to myself, what the hell was I thinking? And so this was my experience with C#. I said, nope, I'm going to stick in the lightweight stuff. So that's where I am now. There is occasionally a need for some low code transformations. So we have that. And then there is it's a great way to migrate or to start your migration to Fabric. So if you're using Power BI, especially Power BI Premium, or perhaps even you want to go the route of Power BI or Premium per user, you might want to consider going the route of Fabric. One of the things that Kevin has proved to all of us is that if you go with the lower license for the capacity, which we call a SKU, the F1 SKU, you could really kind of get in for like about $250 a month if you can't have a lot of data. There's some limitations on it, let me put it that way. But then everyone just needs the $10 user a month license. So there's a point where it might be cheaper than the premium per user. So it's another opportunity to grow inside of there. So why data?
And I would even add
ahead,
on, what you were saying, right, is if you're already using data flows in even Pro, right, then you pretty much know the 90% of Dataflow Gen 2 that you're covering here. So it's an excellent way to migrate from, traditional Power BI, as I'm making air quotes off camera, to Fabric. So
That's
very good
exactly
point.
right, because it gives you like a temporary holding spot until you figure out what's the best way to deal with the data. It might just be to keep it in data flows, but it might be to do a copy and then deal with some things. And the data flow function doesn't have to be where you get the data and bring it into Fabric. It could be you copy the data in, and then the data flow uses the copy to clean up the data and you use it just like you would in Query Editor. Or it could be that you get the data with the data flow, and I don't know, you could adjust all kinds of ways. So your choice, whatever way your data dictates. All right, so thank you, Kevin. The Y Gen 2, Y Dataflow Gen 2, again, it is the next generation for data preparation, easy to use for ELT and ETL, either depending upon how you work with your data. We've put out a lot of different information. I've said a lot of this already, but this is it on the screen. Look at it. It is the Power Query that you know. So it writes output to data flows, to Azure SQL, Azure SQL database, warehouse, lakehouse, a whole lot more. There is some Copilot for Data Factory built right in, which is pretty cool. I'm not going to be demoing Copilot today, but you could use Copilot to help you manage your schedule, to run and manage your data flows. You can do all kinds of different things with Copilot and AI, and that is a long conversation all by itself, so we're not going to dig into that. All right, so now we're at the topic where I'm going to start doing a little bit of demos. I told you would be mostly watch, and I'm going to give you some tips along the way. And Kevin, I'd love for your tips to pop in as well. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the Gen 1 versus Gen 2 thing. So in Power BI, there is data flows as an option in the Power BI service where you can create a data flow. That's data flow Gen 1. There is also data in Fabric itself, data flow Gen 2, and that's what we're going to be looking at. There are differences between the two, and I want to point that out. Everything that is in Fabric, for the most part, has a counterpart in Azure, or maybe even in Power BI. And the differences are not, it's not a one-to-one relationship, especially for everything in Azure. They took the best features that were out there, in this case, in the data flows that we had, or almost all the best features, and then it added some extra ones. So each one has something the other doesn't have. For example, right now, Data Flows Gen 2 does not have, and this is where I need you to keep me honest, Kevin, because I can't remember. Things are changing just so wicked fast. I'm having a hard time keeping up. But it doesn't have the what is the refresh called where you only get part of it?
Oh, the incremental refresh.
Incremental refresh. That lost my mind.
Yeah.
It doesn't have incremental refresh, but I'm assuming that the word yet is just like hanging out there in the air, right? Because they are really working on it. I think what they did was they took the pieces that they could continue working and build on in a more powerful way. And that's what they're doing. That is the assumption I get and the impression I get from a lot of people. But just know that there's not a complete one-to-one relationship here. And I will come in and put a link in the chat, and you could learn more about the differences between the two of these. I want to get to the demo as quickly as possible. And so because there's this one-to-one relationship, there are a couple downsides to using Dataflow Gen 2. One, this one kills me. Column and table naming restrictions, no spaces. I mean, I have this thing called Embrace the Space. I talk about it a lot. Oh, and back to your question, Fernando, AI, some of the pieces of AI do have cost. Mostly you have to have it, the cost will be in the SKU or the capacity you buy. So you'd have to have 64 F64 license in order to get like the co-pilots and some of the other AI. So note that. But also starting at the F64 license, that's where report consumers don't have to have a paid license. So again, you're talking about there is a trade-off where there's a point where it becomes cheaper to get the F64 than you get the co-pilots with it. I do want to point out though, co-pilots take a lot of resources, so it could slow things down quite a bit. Gateway requirements to use Dataflow Gen 2, you do need to have the latest gateway installed. And so when using OAuth 2 credits, a gateway doesn't support refreshes, excuse me, longer than an hour. I don't know why they have that in there. Just wanted to point that out. Incremental refresh not available. I mentioned that. If only I had looked at the next screen, I would have remembered that. And there is a lack of AI insight and direct query support. So for this, I mean, not everything, there's going to be some situations where those things just aren't going to work. So just keep that in mind, test it out. But those are new things anyhow. So I'm excited by Direct Lake. What Direct Lake is kind of like Direct Query, only it's significantly faster. But there are a lot of gotchas where if everything doesn't work out exactly right, it'll fall back to Direct Query, and then you're back to the slower speed of Direct Query. So keep that in mind. Definitely do some testing before you go in. Okay, so where are data flows found? They're found in Data Factory. So when you get in the Power BI service, down at the bottom left, you'll see a Power BI icon. You'll see me switch around back there. If you click on that, you could get to Data Factory, or you can click on Microsoft Fabric and see everything. But if you click on Data Factory, you'll see Dataflow Gen 2 and data pipelines. That's what exists in the Data Factory area. And again, Data Factory query pipelines are something for orchestration, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So let's begin our demo. Yay! Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm in my dev environment. I'm going to add a workspace. And so I'll just come to workspace and I'll click on new, and I'll call this workspace Austin PBIUG. Okay. That's the name of my workspace. Work names obviously have to be unique. And I'm going to come down here and click on advanced, because one of the things you have to do is you need to make sure that you have the right kind of license selected. And if you're using the trial, my trial drops off in 17 days. They left it on for a long time. But if you're using the trial, couple things I want to point out. Every workspace you create since you got the trial is going to set up for a trial. So if you don't mean for it to be trial, then come in and select the appropriate one. So check it out, because everyone will default to the trial. This trial is the Fabric capacity. So I'm going to select the trial capacity and then go ahead and click on OK. So now I have this nice empty workspace, nothing going on in it. Now you'll recall down here in the bottom in that other slide, I had the Power BI option. And if I click on it, I could go to Data Factory and see my Data Factory, or I could come up and choose Microsoft Fabric. And now I'm at the Fabric homepage, where I could see these different experiences that are all part of Fabric, which includes Power BI, which we know and love. Data Activator is something I think it's still technically in preview, but it's similar to Power Automate, where you could do triggers and make things happen. Industry solutions are just some solutions for templates for different industry and training for different industry. These are some of the big ones: real-time analytics, Synapse data engineering, Synapse data science, and Synapse data warehouse. And frankly, I'm not sure why they put Synapse in front of these three, because Fabric is really kind of, I mean, technically it's Synapse, but it's kind of different than Synapse. So I don't know. We'll see. But anyhow, there's some other things in here, like exploring the community and the documentation. I'm going to go ahead and just select Data Factory, and it takes me right back to Data Factory. Now I am in my current workspace that I just created right there. And these are some of the different things that I can work on creating. So I'm going to start this. Before I begin with anything, I don't want to go right to my data flow because I need to put my data flow someplace. And right now I just have this workspace. So you either typically will put things in a data warehouse or a lakehouse. And the difference between the two primarily is a data warehouse is for structured data only, and a lakehouse could be for structured and unstructured data. So the oversimplified thing, if you're going to just use relational databases like SQL, you could use your columnar, tabular type databases or data. You could use the data warehouse. Otherwise, you want to stick to a lakehouse. And everything that we have, because it's all on Fabric, whether it's a lakehouse or a warehouse, it's all on OneLake. OneLake is kind of the OneDrive for Microsoft Office. You know how you could save a Word document to OneDrive and an Excel document to OneDrive, and everything can share them all. This is kind of the same thing. This is reading or just putting all the data, all the artifacts that get used, in fact, in this OneDrive, in this OneLake, in this single space. So the first thing we want to do is create a lakehouse. Now I can, for the most part, you can get around and add new things wherever you are, but I'm going to come in and switch to data engineering, which is where we create our lakehouse. So here's our lakehouse. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and I'm going to call it or define it. And because there are a lot of different kinds of artifacts inside of Fabric, I'm going to name it LH at the beginning for lakehouse, and then I'll do an underscore, and then I'm going to call this Austin UG. Okay, that's the name of my lakehouse now. And I'll simply click on create. And it's literally creating a lakehouse for me. Now, this lakehouse resides in my workspace. So if I were to go and look at my workspace, I would literally see, here's my little icon for the lakehouse. Here's the workspace. The workspace has my lakehouse in it. Here's my lakehouse. And as part of my lakehouse, it created a SQL Analytics endpoint for integration, and it created an empty semantic model. I'm going to go back to my lakehouse right here. And in the lakehouse, I have a tables folder and I have a files folder. And you can see there's a lot of different things I could do inside my lakehouse, including a new Dataflow Gen 2. So I could also use notebooks, which is part another way of ingesting data, create a new shortcut, and so forth. But we're going to go after a new Dataflow Gen 2. So I'll just simply click on that. And what we're going to end up seeing is Microsoft, what looks like Microsoft Query. And I am, here it is, looks very much, look, the toolbar is the same. I will tell you a couple things are in a little bit of a different place, but if you know Power Query, you could find it. Again, it's not a complete one-for-one, but what it does is pretty darn powerful. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and connect to some data that I have. And the first thing is I will come in and click on Get Data, just like you're used to. And I could find my data source. If I click on View More, you could see this looks very much like the Power Query that we see. The ingestion point here, we don't see it looking this way in Power BI, but if you work in Dataverse and you use it, it looks like this. So it's essentially the same thing. So I'm going to choose text and file, text and CSV. I'm going to use something that Microsoft uses a lot. It's an order file, CSV. It's in GitHub, so I just put in the link. The authentication on this is anonymous, but I would set my authentication here. I'll simply click on Next. And I'll tap my fingers. There we go. And now I have the preview, just like we're used to seeing. This is a simple little fact table, not a lot to it. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on Create. And now it is connecting to that data. And you notice I have my query steps, just like we have the query properties inside of Q&A. I can see some of my profiling here, so I could see information about my accounts. I'm still profiling on the top 1,000 rows, just like we're used to. One thing is different is seeing this visual here but you could come down to the bottom and remove that if that confuses you. But this is a visual, this is visually the steps that we are reviewing. So there's source, promoted, change, source, promoted, headers, and change. This is essentially what that is. Now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to choose get data one more time. And this time I am actually, you know what? I'm not even going to go that route. I was going to get a blank query, but I think I'm going to do something a little bit different. So let me pull up. I have handmade in Excel this a version where I just have like the state where these sales are coming from based off the customer ID number. So what I'm going to do is just come in and go to the query editor inside of Excel. So if I could do this in Excel, then I'm proving it to you. I could do it in Power BI. I'm going to right mouse click on this query and then go back to my data model. And here you have to do Control V, but I'm going to do a Control V here. And I should be able to get that data. There it is. It's called orders 2. I'm going to call this states. So now I have this query, and this time there's more steps to it, because essentially this is using the same GitHub data source that is being used. I'm gonna just get rid of that right there. So here is my data. So I just copied and pasted. This is one of the things that makes it so great when you want to start working on moving your data over to Fabric, is you could open up your current Power Query for your data side and then copy all of the queries over and paste them in. You might need to edit the source a little bit to clean it up, but you see how easy that was for me to do. So I have both of my queries there. Now I probably need a calendar one as well. And in my calendar, one of the, I have a lot of calendars in Dex, but I have a calendar I've created in, didn't get the let. I also have a calendar I created using M-code that I could copy and paste and reuse over and over. And come on, my mouse doesn't want to help me out. There we go. All right, so I'll copy that. And now this time I'll choose a blank query. And now I'm going to just paste that in. And whoop. Oh, look what I did. I did not get the original L. Okay, click OK or next. And dun dun dun. All right, so now I have my date or my calendar, and I'm going to rename this to calendar. The real question is, will I spell it right? Now, I think the year starts here in 2022. Yes, it does. I could double check that by sorting. Yes, okay. And now I don't need that sort anymore, but I know it's 2022. So I'm going to come in and I've got my calendar listed here. The way I built this is by using a inner data table, and I put in the first day of my calendar year or my fiscal year. Whoops, don't need that, and delete that. Okay. And what it does is it will eventually, it'll look at today's date, and then it'll get the last day of next year of whatever today's date is, and then create my calendar accordingly. So that's how it does. So I only have to worry about the starting date. And this is an easy way to do a calendar inside of M. And I still have it broke down the way I want. You could put in a week ending. That's something I do. You could set the date in here, whatever day of the week you want it to start, and so forth. All right, so I have all of those different things done. And now I want to go ahead and publish this. But one of the things I need to do, first of all, I want to point out, if you right mouse click, we don't have that enable load here like we do inside of Power BI, where you don't want something to load into the model. Like I could take the states and just put the states in the order and end up with a flat file, but we don't want to do that. But I could, and that's one thing that you could do. And you might, if you merge like that, you would turn off enable load, so it wouldn't duplicate that state information by bringing in the original source. Here we have enable staging, and enable staging is going to allow you to copy and move that information. It's very similar to that enable load function, because if you're using this to move data around, and the bigger your data is, the more you're going to need to move it around as part of your modeling and part of your vetting out of information. And so that's primarily what makes Fabric so great, is everything's in one location. So it's easy. It means your data's not moving as much. They're all stored ultimately in the same format. Delta Parquet is the format. It's secure, but it's still open source format. If you look at the files, it looks like wingdings. So it's kind of safe. But this is where you can turn on or turn off and enable staging. Kevin, I don't know. Do you leave it turned on and if you're not going to be moving it around, or do you turn it off?
Well, if you're going into a lake house, now it's off by default,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on by default if you're going into a warehouse. So it has to be used for going into a warehouse, but for speed reasons, I keep it off whenever I can.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wasn't testing you either. Okay. So we have that. I appreciate that, because that one's always something I'm like, okay. So we have orders over here, and we have to tell it where to put the data. So right now it thinks, oh, we were in a lake house when we started, so it must be in a lake house, but it doesn't know. It's got some assumptions there, but I guess that's probably enough to leave it. We don't have to actually do anything. So by default, it'll go into this workspace that I created, into the Austin UG Lake House. And then the update method will be replace as opposed to append. And because this is new, the default will be new. Now I'll go ahead and set this one so you could see. So there's the lake house. That's the option. Here's where I could edit my connections, and I'll choose next. And when this comes up, one of the other things you could do is verify data types. So, oh, not yet. Sorry. Here's the table name that it's going to create. I'm going to make it a capital orders just because I'm a weirdo. Oh, I belong in Austin then, don't I? Okay. And then here is my lake house right there. And then I'll click on next. And it's a new table I'm creating as opposed to replacing a table. And then here I could again double check my data source types. They're all fine with me, and I'll choose save settings. Okay, and then I could potentially go through and do everything exactly the same. States is fine with me, calendar's fine with me. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and just click on publish, but you do have to set where you want it to go. All right. So now I have a Dataflow 1. I should have renamed it. It would have been in the top left corner, but that's okay. I'll leave it Dataflow 1. You see the artifact for Dataflow 1 is a Gen 2, Dataflow Gen 2. Here's my lake house with my semantic model and so forth. So we're going to wait for this to finish coming around. And what I'm going to do is
yeah, and this is where it's a little bit different than the other ones, because what it was first going through was a publish step, and that's where that little circle was closer to the name. And now you see it's going through its refresh, its first run, where the progress circle is over by the refresh column.
Yep. Fernando's encouraging me to pull that up. Thank you.
Yep. Get rid of the task flows. Yeah.
Yes, that's something new. But yes, thank you. Yeah, this is a little easier to see. And you can see now we have the semantic model and we have the SQL endpoint. Now I'm going to come in and go back to my workspace. for, yeah, here I am I'm in my workspace. I'm going to come back to the lake house for a moment. And you can see when I created the lake house, it created a tables folder and a files folder. And so what is partially happening right now is it is going to create the tables into right in here. So that's what is going to end up happening. The next thing I'm going to do, let me come back to my slide here. Yeah, so you could basically do everything you want to do. There is a little lightning bolt that will occasionally appear on some of the data, which is telling us it's just going to use enhanced compute engine. I wanted to let you know about that. Here are some of the options where we could have stored our data, either in an Azure SQL database, Azure Data Explorer, which is a Custo database, which is a Microsoft database for really large, massive data sites, and often it'll be used when there's really large data for real-time data, like weather on a buoy, watching the weather on a buoy, and it pings it every minute and a half of what's going on, what's the wind, what's the wind gust, what's the temperature, and so forth. So a lot of those can deal with that. And yes, Internet of Things, that's a big one. Like what is the air temperature of all the air conditioners we have? What's the temperature of our freezer in the back where we keep our food? And if it gets too low, then, our food might not be in good shape. So all of these different things, quite the big deal. Then the Azure Lakehouse, or Fabric Lakehouse, Fabric Warehouse. And then there is a KQL database in Fabric, which again is also Custo. So there is that. So during publishing, tables get created, and the names are going to match by default what the query name is. Again, no spaces or no special characters within the names. There are some additional settings that we didn't look at, but we have like the update method, manage mapping, or we could do some drop and create things. They just allow us for different kind of schema changes on the data flow refresh. And then you could even adjust the schema to be dynamics or fixed. Dynamics will allow the data to be changed on each refresh. So if the new refresh brings in an additional column or drops a column, it'll be dynamic to that. In the fixed schema, you can see here only rows are dropped during refresh, right? So the schema stays intact. I know I'm going through those a little bit quick, but those are some things that I wanted to just point out. Let's go back to our data. Okay, I keep pulling up my wrong browser. Okay, so we should be pretty close to being where we want to be. Let me go back to the group here. So we have our model listed right here. Our data was in as part of our model. Now what I'm going to do is add a pipeline to it. And I could go straight and add it to the lake house. Probably would be easier, but I'm going to do it right here. You can see I have a lot of different options, everything in Fabric for the most part. And I'm going to add a data pipeline. And the data pipeline, I'm just going to call this pipeline Austin. Again, I just do this for the little prefixes, because if you end up with a whole lot of different artifacts in here, it's going to get quite confusing very, very quickly. So here we can here's one where we have guidance helping us, because pipelines can copy data in, just know that. But for the most part, pipelines are for orchestration of data, like moving data, refreshing data, doing retries, a lot of different elements like that. And in this case, I'm going to just do the move and transform of the data flow. So I'm going to call this underscore DF for data flow underscore Austin UG. I can set some additional things there. There's my workspace. And if I come in here and look, there's my data flow. Okay, so the data flow knows to write it to write it to the lakehouse. So I'm going to save this, and I could schedule this to run and refresh regularly. I'm going to go ahead and just click on run, and it is successfully running the pipeline. Okay, so I can monitor the status of it right here and see how long it's going to take. This is a pretty small one. It should only take about a minute and a half to come over.
Hey, Belinda, there's a question, and I think it's from Fernando. Could you
Yeah.
please show folders when you get a chance? Didn't know if you saw
Yeah. So in here, there is a new folder feature. I do like it a lot. One of the things I could do is, let's say that this has to do with sales, but also in this particular, this is one way to organize it, but also in this particular workspace, maybe I want to organize it by where all the data is, or maybe I want to organize it by the type of data it is. So I might want one called Dataflows. And then now I have this folder. I could just take this data flow and I could move it to that folder. So I just right mouse clicked and move it. I'm going to do it again so you could see it. And I do use this in Power BI in my workspaces. I'll separate out a lot of the work. It just makes it easier for me to find things. I'll put all my semantic models together, often by type, and then I'll put all of my reports together and then all my dashboards together. And it just makes it easier for me when I'm working in a workspace, but however it works best for you. So here I'm going to put in pipelines. I'm not really moving it anywhere except the way it is visibly. So I click on this little option or the ellipsis here, the 3 dots. I'll click on move to, and then I could just simply move that. And this is just a great way of cleaning it up. If I come back to my pipeline, which is right here, I have successfully, a minute and 34 seconds. So it's pretty close with a minute and a half. So now if I come back in, I'm going to close out the pipeline. Oh, I closed out the warehouse here. Let me go to lake house or the lake house. And then now I should have, why am I not? Oh, let me refresh. Here we go. I see I don't know why I put it under identified there, but I have my calendar, I have my orders, and I have my states. Now, one of the things I may want to do while I'm at this is I might want to, refresh again. Okay. Thank you. I have good friends. I'm so lucky. There you go. Yep, that was all I had to do. So now if I were to come in and look at calendar here and just select on it, I should see the data popping up with all of my calendar data in it. And you could see that the data is listed right here. So as I work my way through, let me just grab states instead. I could see all of my data. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a new semantic model here, even though I have that one semantic model. And I'm going to call this a little SM underscore Austin 1, we'll call it. And I want all of these tables in my semantic model. Now, the reason why I'm creating a different semantic model is I want to create relationships with these. And I want to show you that, you could create multiple semantic models that use some of the data tables, but not all the tables and so forth. This is also another great way of minimizing your modeling effort. You could do a lot of things in Dataflow to clean things up, but you can leave some of the tables out. So you can see this looks very much like the modeling page inside of Power BI. So I am one of those people in the star schema. I don't know if Donald came back, but I put all my dimensions at the top and I put my fact table at the bottom. So I'm going to create a relationship from date to date. There's the order date to date and order date to date, many to one, single relationship. I'll click OK. So now that relationship exists. I'm going to hide the order date so that users will be forced to use the date from the calendar because that's the way I like them to work. And then I'm also going to do customer to customer, customer ID, many to one. Even though I don't see a preview of the data, I can see that the cardinality indeed create correctly, which tells me that it should be correct. And again, I don't want people filtering from customers under orders. I want them filtering. Ooh, yeah, I want them to come up. That's just an ID number. They can come up to the states if they want to do any filtering there. It will create that star schema effect. And this is the way typically I like to narrow some things down. Also, while we're here, there are some additional things that we can do while we're in here. We can, I'm not going to get into a whole lot. I could create DAX here. As you can see, my DAX calculations. I can, if I want, oh, here's a good example. Let's say I always say this, we call our customers Bubba. Then for Q&A purposes, we want to account for that. So where is synonyms here under advanced? No. Maybe synonyms doesn't exist here. Okay, not going to worry about that, but I will expand this. And for some of these other things like line item, I don't want that to sum. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to, not even default. I don't want that to be default. I want that to be don't sum. And the line item total, I probably want to create a DAX function and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one, but I'm not going to do all of them. So we'll just call this total. And I will put it in as a sum line item total. And that is my quick and dirty little, looks like I've got an error message there. Oh, I hit the keyboard with my nail. That was it. Okay. So I'll go ahead and select that. I do want the 1000 separator, but I'm going to leave the decimal places too. So I'm happy with that. So this is how we could create some DAX functionality. There's the DAX right there. We can clean up and do all kinds of things. So you could see this works pretty easily. Okay, so we've got all this done. I'm going to go ahead and save this particular semantic model. I'm going to go ahead and just click on a new report here. That's a semantic model I could use in Power BI. But I'll click here and I could create my visuals the way I want them created. So I'll go in here. I could add in my total, and then I could just come in and, whoops, add my states. Those look to be exactly the same thing. So I obviously have something wrong. So
I think you had your relationship reversed.
Oh, I probably did. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to worry about that one right
No,
now.
you don't. No, it's all right.
Yeah. So let's just go in and I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's do it by year. Year and total. Oh, only 1 year?
Go by month. Yeah, maybe my.
There we go. Okay. Yep, that looks right. Okay. So you could see the point, and then you would go in and just save the report. Okay. Fancy name, report 1. And essentially, we have created and just in this less than an hour. Oh, thank you, Fernando caught it. Yeah, I did my cardinality backwards. Essentially, we went in 1 hour from creating a lakehouse, creating a data model in connection with Dataflows. We have it where it can refresh. All we have to do is turn on the refresh now to refresh regularly on a regular basis. And we even created a report. And then now that I'm here, I might choose to come in and create a report this way, because then if I do it based off of the semantic model, I could choose auto create report. and it'll automatically generate for me. The data could also be available through Copilot as well. These are all very, very powerful things. I could edit this report. You could see, I'm a little happy with it, not the sum of line item total, but that's okay. We'll leave it just as it is. And now we have this report. I'm just going to go ahead and save it and call it report 2. So that is a quick and dirty. And I basically now am managing this data using Query Editor inside of Fabric. And because it's in Fabric now, then we could start working on, this is our friend Chris Wagner, Kevin's Friday co-host. I did not put that in the link. I'll share you this link. You could stage it now too, if you like. And staging it would basically, people tend to stage it in what they call bronze, silver, gold. I like to call them hell no, and okay. I mean, it's just kind of a way to like build things out. You separate all of these individual pieces. Then if something goes wrong, it's easier to find than if everything is pushed together in one single query. So leveraging the staging could be incredibly beneficial so that you could monitor things in pieces. If one of your data sources change, then it makes it a lot easier. Because if you have data sources that are only managing 10 sources, if that's all your semantic model has in it, then that's fine. But if your semantic model has 20 or 30 or 50 different data sources in it, it can get quite crazy. This is the setting of how it refreshes. Notice it's incredibly similar to what we're used to seeing, almost identical to the Power BI service as it is right now. I mentioned the pipelines are available for orchestration. They can move data. They can copy data in. That could actually be how you ingest data. By the way, in ingesting data, if any of you are going to be in Las Vegas in September for the Power Platform Conference, myself and 2 of my teammates we're resurrecting an event I used to do for Excel, an Excel shootout where you have to wow people. But the 3 of us, myself, Stephanie Bruno, and Miguel Felix, are going to try to wow people with different ways of ingesting data. And I believe Alex Powers or Adam Saxton is going to be the MC for it. So it should be a lot of fun. So, we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll bring it live somewhere. Okay, we did that demo already. There is a new feature in Dataflows called Fast Copy. I did not have it available, but you could see it's really for big data, but it can really copy data significantly faster. A lot of times copying data is one of the better ways to ingest. Let me see if I can get the link. No, I can't get the link. I can put in the search for it, man. I don't think that's going to bring in the link, but yeah, but oh, it did. How about that? Okay, there you go. And I put it in twice. So there you go. Now it's in once. All right, so you could learn more about that as you like. We talked about Direct Lake being pretty fast, but it can do something called fallback, which means it goes back to the direct query speed. Import's much faster than direct query. Direct query has to keep going back and forth to the data, where Direct Lake can do that. But there are some things that make it fall back. And some of those have to do with if you exceed the limit for your SKU, it'll fall back. I'm trying to remember some of the other reasons it might fall back. now I can't remember all the reasons. There are quite a few. There's about 5 or 6 reasons why it would fall back. So you want to do testing on it to see if it's going to work for you, direct query. If it does, or direct lake, if it does, it is great. But that is a gotcha, and it's a big gotcha. So, oh, views, thank you. Views are a big one. If you're connecting to SQL data, that's a big one for me because that one's gotten me more than once, Fernanda. If you connect in SQL to a view, it's going to fall back to direct query. So you have to connect to a SQL table and then do some of the cleanup, and which kind of goes against Roche's maxim about modeling the data as far upstream as possible and downstream as necessary. But that is a huge one. So that's something to take note of. I do have a lot of different links. I'm going to just mass copy these into the chat. I think I've run over on time. But
don't worry about it. No worries.
okay. Does anybody have any questions for myself, Mr. Arnold, or our wonderful friend Fernando?
I was going to ask you a question about fast copy, but you already showed us how that works, or you talked about it. So, because I know that's one of the newer things is fast copy.
Yeah, it is. I haven't played around with fast copy yet. Have you played around with it, Kevin?
No, I haven't. Right, but I mean, you do have to be with one of those sources, right? So it's great for like Azure SQL or whatever, but if you're on-prem, you're not going to be able to use it.
Exactly.
Is there a way to show us how to enable it, Belinda? I don't know if you have the ability to do that. Like, how do you would use it?
To enable fast copy?
Yeah.
Well, give me a minute. We could figure it out. Let's
Did we want to get the other question while you're looking at it?
I think that's great. Great idea.
Somebody
Thanks,
had
Kevin.
their hands up and went back down.
It was
If you
Sarah.
go to the
Hey, yeah, hi. Yeah,
Yeah,
hi
hi.
there.
Do you have a question?
Oh, yeah. I honestly wanted to ask you, I've just graduated from Houston Christian University,
Oh,
and thank you so much. And I really want to get into, like, data analytics, like get into these things. But I really, really love that what you were explaining everything. But there were a lot of things what was going on over my head because I'm kind of, complete freshman right now.
mhm.
So I just wanted to ask you, to be honest, like, what would you suggest, like, where, uh, like a freshman complete, like, from the start, where should I start to learn this all, from first, uh, to, like, reach to this situation so that, you know, I can, uh, I can make myself capable for getting great jobs and do my business related to this or run my own, uh, like stuff. I was like curious about asking you that.
Yeah, so where to learn? Yeah, that's a tough question.
Mhm.
First of all, I would definitely, one of the things, Microsoft Learn, I think would be one of the first things. But I think if I were you, if you could afford to take the Microsoft PL 300 course,
PL 300. Okay.
and I just put it in the chat. That is the data analyst certification, and that is it's kind of fast paced, but it's more of an overview of Power BI itself. So I would start with Power BI, and then you at this point for the rest of it, you would have to go through and deal with Microsoft Learn. So I'll show you Microsoft Learn in just a moment. Let's go back to Mike's question
Sure.
about loading this. So under loading this,
screen,
I'm in the data flow, and in the yeah, here I'm in data flow, and then scale. Yeah, you were guiding me. Yeah, and then I'm in options, and then for this data flow, you would go down to scale, and then
Okay.
that's it.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Belinda.
Yep. Sure. Yep. Okay. Now, while back to Sarab, and then we'll get, yeah, thank you, Fernando.
So Rob, what did you graduate with? What degree?
It was a major as a data analytics, and it's MBA.
Okay.
Oh.
And so even in those data analytics, they a lot of schools still aren't using Power BI. I'm assuming they didn't use it.
No, they had like two classes, like two courses in the complete masters. So first was like a fundamental of data analytics, and then advanced data analytics, but they did not teach anything related to Power BI. They mentioned like a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
I've learned how to use like this AI, ChatGPT, and all these things, but no, they did not help us
Yeah,
to get into. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
that's what they seem to focus on, either that or what is more down what we would kind of call the computer or the data science standpoint, right? Of working with machine learning and AI and stuff like that. But I would say more business runs off of what we would typically call business intelligence. And I agree with what Belinda is saying is um, I would take the PL 300, go through the learn that she's starting to show here and get that certification. That's going to focus more on the Power BI side of it, right? And then after that, go up to the next one that she's going to talk about, which is the newer one that was it DP 600?
The DP 600.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, oh yeah, there's a lot of good courses that are out there and a lot of different good learning. This is yeah, Fernando's right. Yeah, it's forever. He says he's been studying it for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
For more than 3 or 4 years, more than that, we've been, and Jack Irby, who is on the call, and Donald Parrish, who is on the call. We all get together and study regularly, so we're still working on it ourselves. But this page that I don't know if I put it up there yet. Yeah, okay, I'm putting it again. This page, if you were to come in on this page, this is where you'd start with Power BI under levels. Start with beginner, and then I would scroll down again, and I would not do it by I think I would do it by learning path. So I would change it to beginner and learning path. And the reason why I would suggest that, and then maybe you start, I don't know, these should be in order, but they're not in order. But like this, getting started with Power BI, it has the individual modules that were being displayed. So my recommendation is go through and work through all of these. If you can, there's a lot of good ones. They're short, they're hands-on. Then you could work your way up to intermediate, and you could work your way up to intermediate still by learning path, and it'll organize these together. After you get Power BI down, and some of these you may or may not need, like Power BI for Tableau users. But after you start getting these down and you're feeling good about it, maybe then you start mixing it up with the one that Fernando shared, this getting started with Microsoft Fabric. And it has a lot of, again, the same modules that are listed there. So I would try that. This challenge that is being offered, I've been thinking about doing the Azure AI one, but for the Microsoft Fabric one, I was trying to show it. I am registered for it, but I only have one section left. I believe, though, it's all Fabric. So I don't think that's you need to start with Power BI. Don't jump right into Fabric. You need to understand that before you start digging in Fabric.
Yeah, sure.
So, yep. And send me send me your contact information since you're looking to get in this more, and loading it up. Okay. Was there
Sure.
any other questions?
Not from my side. I honestly appreciate that you have helped me with this.
Sure. Okay, here's a question. if the relationship can be established using SQL views, I was trying, but none of the relationships show up in Power BI.
Are you talking primary foreign key relationships? Let's see, I have a question. If the relationship can be established with SQL views. So relationships like primary key, foreign key relationships cannot be done to views. They have to be done to tables. And then within Fabric itself, you could establish the primary key foreign keys, but you have to disable them because it cannot be enforced. So it's a little bit different syntax. But then once you do it, the default semantic model will pick them up. And whether or not how Belinda showed you to create it, I can't remember if that picks it up or not. But I don't see a lot of people using the foreign key primary keys just because, again, they're not really being enforced. So they're really just a documentation only thing inside Fabric.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I was saying the only way it can be done through this way, Belinda said. So
yeah, and you can still even use desktop, right? And then it will, do a pretty good job of matching up. And it might use that metadata inside desktop. I'm not sure if what she showed is doing it all on the web, and the web's come a long way, right, to being able to do all reporting and getting closer to doing semantic models so that you could do more without desktop. Not that desktop will ever go away, but they're trying to get it to be in parity.
thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, I'll be glad when it is. I know a lot of people like to use Macs, so that'll be great when it is in parity. And sometimes just being able to not have to worry about upgrading is a nice benefit as well, because it does upgrade a lot. One of the things I know Kevin deals with this too. You have to be really comfortable helping people out, and Mike too. He does it too, and probably a couple other ones of you, because you'll be in the middle of showing someone something, and you'll go, "All right," in the middle. Oh wait, that's new. Or, oh, they moved that, and so you have to be comfortable saying that because it does move pretty quickly, and it does change a lot. But for the most part, what I wanted you to see was that Fabric is nothing to be afraid of, right? It's seriously nothing to be afraid of. The things that are different are, is from a Power BI perspective, really just using semantic models to connect your data, which is what we recommend doing anyhow as a best practice. So nothing has changed much from this perspective, from a Power BI perspective. From a data perspective, we have data warehouses and we have lake houses to put our data in. And you have options on how to get the data in. You have better ability to make things happen, to hand more function in making things happen. I mean, the pipelines, if you've used Power Automate at all, then you know that there are things you could do inside of Power Automate. There's a set of functions that you could use for some of the dynamic data. Well, those same functions, I love that they're reusing some of the stuff finally, but the same functions that you use in Power Automate are what we use in pipelines. So you could have, like, if it a refresh, and you could have it say, oh, unlike in Power BI where it fails, boom, here, you got to email that it failed, end of story. In pipelines, we could say, you know what, if it fails the first time, wait 10 minutes and try it again. And if it fails the second time, wait 30 minutes and try it again. And then if it doesn't get refreshed by then, end of story. That's kind of cool, being able to do some of those things. So that's generally the short story. I try to keep this mostly to what's available in the lowest level SKU, and I want mostly my goal is take one of your real reports and give it a shot. Data pipeline, such a relief from PA. What's PA?
Power
Just
automate.
Power automate. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. There are two. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Belinda. You finish.
I was just going to say there are two different experiences inside of Power BI that work with that. One of them is the pipelines, and pipelines, actually, it's funny. Technically, they belong to Data Factory, but they work everywhere you can ingest data. But also Data Activator, where we could set triggers and do the types of things that Power Automate does, but specific to our data. So I expect that it's kind of basic right now, but I expect it to take off. And so I'm super excited about the possibilities that Data Activator has. Really excited about it.
Cool. Yep.
And that's me.
That's like event-driven alerts. Yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Okay, and this is all my contact information. So I appreciate everybody coming and hanging in. Extra appreciation to my friends Mike and Kevin and Jack and Donald and Fernando
The
for
SML crew.
supporting me. The SML group. Yes.
Of course. Yeah, thank you for coming and presenting this to us, Belinda. It's very, very good.
Oh, good. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, and if you do want to share the slides, I can post those out to our community.
I will.
And then
I
they
will.
can have these too.
I will share that.
Cool. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
For me,
Look at
that's
there.
great.
Do you see that, Kevin? There's someone asking, can we do the same kind of session for Pipelines Activator in the future?
Yeah, I might. I was just thinking of that. Maybe I could put a session together and come back.
That'd be
I
cool.
don't know where I'm at on the rotation here. So for Austin, I
You're
was
welcome
just here a
anytime,
couple of
Kevin.
months ago, right? So
You were, yeah. You're welcome anytime. So
Thanks.
of course, we've had a good showing for our from our SML group this year in our meetings. So we've had a lot of people from our group. So thank you all for presenting. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. If there's no more questions, I don't see any more. I guess I'll jump back to the presentation for the drawings for the subscriptions.
There is one missing.
Oh, is there one more? Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I got the pipeline. Oh, from Fernando. Dataflows Gen 2, SQL, or PySpark for ETL. Is that the question you're referring to, Fernando?
Yes, ma'am.
That is a loaded question. In the words of the guys in the cube, it depends.
Depends.
Oh, and Jack put that in.
I guess if you're comfortable with Python, then PySpark would be an option, right? Because it's pretty flexible. But if you're not comfortable with Python, then you're kind of down to SQL or Dataflows Gen 2. But yeah, definitely depends.
Yeah, I would ride on exactly what you said, right? Is first pick the skill set that you have or your team has and make those choices first, right? And you may end up setting up some type of architecture that certain people do certain things because they have different skill sets or whatever, right? And so you end up using all of it. But from there, pick the skill set that you have, your team has, to kind of get yourself in and going. Then after that, start picking the language that's going to give you the most efficiency and that you want to learn, and get to Python. Because Python, there are some things that I did that I was trying to do in SQL and everything, and then I switched over to doing it to Python, and it was just so much easier. But you don't have to start there. Don't feel that you have to be there first, is my point.
Yeah, it's going to really be data source experience. Kevin's
Mhm.
absolutely right. It's really gonna, and it very likely you'll end up with a mixture.
Yeah.
And that's fine too. That's fine
Yeah,
too.
as long as it doesn't get unmaintainable, but yeah, just think about maintenance going forward too. But skill set of the team to me is one of the biggest.
Very big one. Very big one.
Yep, definitely. It's a good point.
Who's gonna try to implement one of their own reports inside of? Yay, Fernando. Fernando probably already has. Put your hand down, Fernando.
I will do it.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah.
I've done this. I'm studying for the DP 600, so I'm
Nice.
into all this stuff right now.
That's
All
a
right,
big
y'all.
exam, but it's a good one.
I'm gonna take off. Good luck in the
Okay.
drawing, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Kevin.
Kevin. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Yep. See you, Kevin.
All right, then I'll switch back so we can get to the next part here. So I'll share again. Entire screen. There we go. Okay. All right, let me go full screen again. And can everyone see the screen? I'm showing the Enterprise DNA Scholarship screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna do these drawings. We do 2 per month for Enterprise DNA and 1 for Radicad. And Enterprise DNA basically is the first one. And basically, if you're not familiar with Enterprise DNA, it is a platform where they have a lot of material, training material around the Power Platform. So Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps. There's also a lot of content in there around other things like Python, SQL. So if you're really wanting to, kind of hone your skills or round out your skills as a data analyst, this is it's a good platform to use. And the way their membership works is, so if you win, you basically get a 1-year subscription to their platform. And then after that year, they basically kind of turn off your access. It's the way that it works. So that's all kind of managed through them. They just provide us the ability to allow people to win that subscription for the first year. Okay, so that's Enterprise DNA. So we'll do that one first. Now, I've been trying to keep up with people that are still left in the meeting, so I may not have it 100% right, but let me do this. Let me first get into our Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Names thing here. So let me open this up. Okay, so this is how we do our drawing. So let me get this going first, and I'll go back to my trusty spreadsheet here. Now, so for Enterprise DNA, I have this list, but again, we need to look at this to make sure that it's still correct, because it might not be. So this is what I had earlier. So basically, if you've won before, you're not in the list. That's why if you don't see your name in the list, if you already have it, then you're not in this list. Now, but if I'm missing anybody, please let me know. Or so Matt, if you can look, if somebody's not there anymore, I can also pull them out as well. If Matt's still there. Is Matt still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
you're
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me switch over.
I'm checking right now.
Oh, okay, same thing. I didn't know that you joined. Thanks for being my eyes here.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry, I had everything on mute. So
No worries.
yes.
Just want to make sure it looks right here before we spin the wheel.
Well, I'm just scanning your list if someone else has already done it. I don't see
Patrice. I don't
see Jeff. I don't see Jeff.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I
right.
also
missed
don't. I also don't see Patrice.
Patrice.
Okay.
Okay, we'll pull Patrice.
All right.
Okay.
And you have a Maxi, an Arena, got it. And then Polly. I don't see a Polly here.
Polly her.
Yes.
Okay.
I see Sarab and I see Victor C. So I
No,
think,
Polly is there at the bottom, isn't it? Or external added later. If you look at in this meeting, thing left, I guess. People, it says people added to the chat.
right, but it still
Polly.
doesn't mean that they probably
Okay.
chatted, but they're not currently in the meeting. So,
Okay. Right.
so must be present to win. So,
Okay.
yes.
Well, then here we go with our first drawing for Enterprise DNA. Good luck. I think it's going to be in Armenia. Yes. All right. So if you're still there, congratulations. What we need from you is your email address. If you could drop it in the chat, we can get you registered for the subscription.
Yeah, and
But we'll
also,
need-
also first and last names, please.
Yeah, please.
Cool. Thank you. All right, got an email address. And so if you can send in the last name, that'll be great. Cool.
Right,
Got
I'll
it.
do
Thank
again.
you.
So I
All
pulled
right.
that one out.
So official
And then
winner.
Here's the next one for Enterprise DNA. Just barely. So Victor C. Congratulations. We just need the same information from you. If you're still there. So look what came out or don't know.
I am still waiting for Victor to acknowledge. Okay, good. Very good. Same
Got it.
thing.
Okay.
First, last name, email address, and you're an official winner.
Cool. Okay. Then back to this. So then we got one more drawing left. This is for Radicad. So this is basically run by Razor Rad. So the details for this subscription is it's a 1 month free subscription. So basically you get access to the Radicad Academy contents. A lot of good resources out there. I'm sure most people know who Razor Rad is. So a lot of good content around Power BI, Fabric, a lot of good resources out there in Radicad. So it's a 1 month subscription to their platform. Okay, so now for Radicad. Oops. Okay. I'll adjust this. Let me get this in here because I know some people fill out. Oops. Screen. There we go. Okay.
I think Kevin is gone.
Yeah. Kevin's gone. Polly was gone. Jeff's gone. I think everybody else is still here, right?
No, Victor.
No,
Oh, no.
Victor's at the top
Oh, okay.
with the hand raised. So
yeah, he is one.
Yeah. Did you have a question, Victor, or did you raise your hand to make sure we knew you were there? Okay. Hand went down, so I think we're good.
Okay, here we go. So this is for the Radicast subscription. The survey says, oh, wow. So back to Victor. That was close. Back to Victor.
Oh, well, very good. Congratulations, Victor.
Okay,
and of course, I
congrats.
already have your information from last time, so we're good. All right.
Awesome.
I think we got them all.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So now I guess just to finish this up. So upcoming speakers. So next month, we're going to have Paul Turley. He'll be here talking about moving from Power BI to Fabric. So he's going to do a presentation about that. So tune in, come back, please, so we can learn all about that from Paul. And with that, I think it's a wrap. So I just want to thank Belinda again and everybody, for attending to listen to her session tonight.
Thank you, Belinda.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We will see you next time. Y'all have a good night.
Okay,
Thanks.
good night.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, take care. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.